How many promising lives have you seen fall apart? Brilliant, talented people with a bright future, yet they crumbled. They fell because of anger, anxiety, impulsive actions. Why? Because they lacked self-control and couldn't govern their own emotions. Here's the harsh truth. If you don't master yourself, you'll be mastered by everything, by your emotions, by circumstances, by others. Broken relationships, ruined careers, people haunted by lifelong regrets, all because they never learned what I'm about to show you. But those who learn the art of self-mastery and apply the Stoic principles I'll teach here can change their entire story from the inside out. That's why you need to watch this video until the end, not just to avoid collapse, but to build a life that's steady, wise, and unshakable. My name is Adriano, and for more than 10 years I've studied and practiced Stoicism, a philosophy that saved me when I was about to lose everything. Today I help ordinary people transform their lives using the same principles that shaped emperors, athletes, philosophers, and great leaders. In this video, I'll show you 4 fundamental Stoic teachings that can reshape your inner world and your external life. Have you ever noticed how a single poorly handled emotion can destroy everything you've spent years building? Anger, fear, or anxiety can hijack your life in seconds. And the worst part is, you often don't even notice it happening. How many times have you regretted saying too much, acting on impulse, or deciding something while emotionally unstable? For many people, this emotional reaction isn't the exception, it's the rule. And that's exactly where Stoicism becomes powerful. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of them." And that's the essence of self-control. Modern neuroscience backs this up. Studies from Yale University show that emotional regulation greatly reduces impulsive decisions during stress. Let's look at a real and modern example. John Jones, one of the most talented fighters in UFC history, was nearly unbeatable inside the cage, but outside, he battled himself. Fights, scandals, drugs, arrests. His career could have been even more legendary, but the lack of emotional control led to constant ups and downs. Talent without self-mastery turns into self-destruction. In contrast, consider Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years unjustly imprisoned, but emerged with peace and purpose. He could have become bitter or vengeful, but instead he forgave his oppressors and united a nation. That's not weakness, it's strength. That's pure self-control turned into wisdom. If you're wondering how to apply this in real life, it starts with one simple action. Pause. When anger rises, don't respond. When fear takes over, don't rush decisions. When someone provokes you, don't strike back. Do what the Stoics taught. Observe the impulse, but don't follow it. Choose with reason, not with emotion. A study by Harvard Business Review showed that leaders who develop emotional intelligence, especially self-regulation, gain more respect and make better decisions. This applies not just at work, but in any relationship, in traffic, at family dinners, or during tough conversations with your partner. Those who master their emotions master the situation. And here's something powerful. The human brain takes about 90 seconds to process intense emotion. So if you can hold back during those seconds, the emotional surge fades. Breathe. Give logic time to step back in. That space between stimulus and response is where your power lives. Self-mastery isn't being cold. It's about choosing wisely. You feel everything, but act on nothing impulsively. The more you practice, the more you see that true freedom isn't doing what you want, but not being a slave to your urges. Today's world is fast, loud, and emotionally reactive. But the person who stays calm in chaos doesn't just stand out, they win. As Seneca said, "No wind is favorable for the one who doesn't know where he's going." Without self-control, you drift through life. But that doesn't have to be you. You can train, you can change, and it starts right now, with your next choice. How many times have you said yes when deep down you wanted to say no? How many times have you promised yourself to start a diet, stop talking to someone, or wake up earlier, only to break that promise shortly after? The truth is, most people don't need enemies because they sabotage themselves through a lack of self-mastery and the inability to honor their own word. Seneca once said, "It is shameful for a man to speak more than he acts." In today's world of social media, this rings truer than ever. We declare transformations in posts, make intentions public in captions, announce goals out loud. Yet we fail to follow through with even small daily decisions. There's a hidden but powerful cost. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you teach your mind not to believe in you, and that destroys internal trust. And if you can't trust your own word, everything starts falling apart. You say yes to avoid conflict, stay in painful relationships, and give in to social pressure. You constantly feel drained with no time or energy because you're saying yes to others and no to your own truth. That's not virtue, that's weakness. True self-mastery involves learning how to say no, respectfully but firmly. Psychology calls this pattern people-pleasing, the urge to satisfy everyone. That behavior leads to social anxiety, inner emptiness, and a negative self-image, because deep down you know you're not living honestly with yourself, and living in conflict with your own conscience is one of the quietest forms of suffering. Amy Winehouse was a heartbreaking example of this internal struggle. According to close friends, she couldn't say no, not to others and not to her own urges. Fame, toxic relationships, and addiction led her to self-destruction. She died far too young, not because she lacked talent, but because she lacked self-control. On the other hand, Keanu Reeves is known for his discipline and integrity. He lives simply, helps others quietly, protects his privacy, and once turned down deals worth around $40 million to stay true to his values. Keanu embodies what the Stoics called eupatheia, a life led by healthy emotions, not wild impulses. That's what true inner freedom looks like. And you can start living this way now. Begin small, go to bed earlier, spend 1 hour without social media, decline plans to take care of yourself, no over-explaining. Every time you honor a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you grow stronger within. Self-mastery isn't about control, it's about deep respect for your own word. When your word starts to mean something to you, the world begins to treat you differently because this strength is directly tied to trust. And trust is built through action, one deliberate choice at a time. According to a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, people who keep even small promises to themselves show higher self-esteem, greater productivity, and deeper life satisfaction. This isn't about being rigid or strict, it's about taking yourself seriously. And when you do, others follow. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "He who is not faithful to himself cannot be faithful to anyone else." That truth applies to every part of life. If you can't say enough when your boundaries are crossed, how can you expect others to respect you? If you keep going back on your own decisions, how can you build anything solid? Self-mastery begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself and start treating your word like a sacred contract. You might lose some opportunities, you might upset people, but you will never lose yourself, and that's what keeps you whole. Because when you learn to say no with courage, you're actually saying yes to a life with more clarity, more purpose, and more truth. Have you noticed how easy it is to blame others when things go wrong? Most people do it without even realizing. The boss, the partner, the government, the past. Maybe you've done it too. We all have. But the more you blame the world, the less control you have over your own life. Epictetus was blunt. As long as you blame others for your problems, you are a slave. When you stop blaming, you take your first step toward freedom. That quote hits hard, but it's also a key. Because when you take responsibility for your life, you also gain the power to change it. That is the essence of self-mastery. To stop handing your destiny to others and begin steering it with courage and clarity. This isn't about guilt, it's about responsibility. Guilt traps you, but responsibility sets you free. When you say, "It's their fault," you chain yourself. But when you ask, "What part of this is mine?" you break free. This applies to everything: money, relationships, health, career. According to the American Psychological Association, those with a strong internal sense of responsibility experience significantly greater emotional well-being, resilience, and personal fulfillment. Charlie Sheen used to be the highest-paid actor on American television, but his career crumbled under the weight of drugs, scandals, outbursts, and reckless choices. He kept blaming producers, studios, and the media, never himself. Eventually, he lost contracts worth around $150 million and became a punchline. Not because he lacked talent, but because he refused to own his behavior. On the other hand, Oprah Winfrey, who grew up in poverty and suffered abuse, took a different route. Instead of feeling sorry for herself, she took command of her story and said, It's exactly because of my past that I'll succeed. And she became one of the most influential women alive. Not because of luck, but because she refused to surrender her power to the world. That kind of decision is made every day in how we respond to challenges. It shows up when you stop complaining and take action. When you stop saying that's just who I am and start improving yourself. That's when real change begins. Maybe it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to decide how to respond. That shift in thinking changes everything about how you live. Running late? Instead of blaming traffic, admit you could have left earlier. Drowning in debt? Don't just blame the economy. Examine your spending habits honestly. Feeling emotionally drained? It might be because you haven't set healthy boundaries. These mindset shifts are what shape a new future. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind and not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That truth remains timeless. This is the heart of Stoic wisdom, knowing what's within your control and what isn't. Focus on your choices, actions, and reactions. That's where your power lives. Positive psychology confirms it. People with an internal locus of control enjoy better mental health and reach long-term goals more effectively. They don't waste time blaming the world. They build their character, learn from mistakes, and keep growing from the inside out. But taking responsibility is not easy. It's uncomfortable, it demands maturity, and it pulls you out of the victim role. But it gives you real strength in return. Yes, the world may remain unfair and people may still hurt you, but that no longer needs to define who you are if you choose to protect your inner peace. When you fully commit to what is within your control, you become unshakable on the outside. That's the quiet strength of someone who stops blaming the world and starts transforming it from within. Have you ever thought about how many problems could be avoided if people just spoke less? How many arguments turned into wars because of one poorly chosen word? How many chances were lost because someone didn't know how to remain silent at the right moment? We live in a time when everyone wants to talk, but very few know how to listen. The Stoic behaves in the opposite way. He doesn't speak less out of shyness. He does it because he understands that silence is a higher form of wisdom. Seneca once said, "Most men worry more about talking than about living." That one sentence sums up today's dilemma, the need to constantly react, respond, explain, and prove. The rush to speak before thinking leads us into unnecessary trouble. We explain too much, defend ourselves too often, and overexpose who we are to the world. And in doing so, we waste energy that could be used to create, observe, reflect, or simply live peacefully with clarity. Studies from the University of Michigan have shown that people constantly exposed to noisy and verbally chaotic environments suffer from higher stress, anxiety, and long-term cognitive decline. The more noise you consume and produce, the less inner balance you maintain. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of clarity and focus. How many times have you regretted a conversation that went too far? A message you sent impulsively? A small disagreement that became an irreversible conflict? This happens to all of us. Silence isn't cowardice, it's a conscious choice. It's self-control in action. It's the space where you hear others, and yourself, more clearly. That's where ideas mature, emotions settle, and wisdom starts to grow. Kanye West is a powerful example of what happens when you fail to stay quiet at the right time. He's a musical genius, no doubt. But his impulsive comments have cost him partnerships worth roughly $800 million and collaborations with major global brands. His talent remains, but public perception changed because of his words. When you speak, you reveal who you are. When you speak too much, you reveal more than you should. On the other hand, look at Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest athletes of all time. He lives under constant pressure yet rarely gets caught up in verbal controversy. He speaks with clarity, acts with focus, and his silence says more than 1,000 interviews. That's not marketing. That's discipline. That's emotional intelligence at a high level. The Stoics called it sophrosine, an inner balance that shows itself even in what you choose not to say. And that kind of wisdom applies even in the simplest moments. Someone provokes you? Take a deep breath. Pause. Stay silent. Is a conversation getting tense or aggressive? Step back. Need to make an important decision? Find a quiet space first. Listen closely to what the noise of the world is trying to drown out, your own intuition. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Of 1,000 words only a few matter, but a well-placed silence can change everything." What's fascinating is that silence has a nearly therapeutic effect. It calms down conflict, slows down your mind, and gives your body and thoughts room to realign. That's why meditation and mindfulness are gaining momentum, because they reconnect us to what the noise of modern life has erased: self-awareness. A study published in the journal Frontiers in Psychology showed that even short periods of intentional silence increase mental clarity and reduce impulsive behavior. To be silent is not to suppress. It's the wise act of choosing what's worth saying. Often, leading by example speaks louder than 100 explanations. Real strength isn't always about winning an argument. It's often about stopping it from ever starting. A person's greatness shows more in how they respond than in how loudly they shout. You can begin practicing this right now. Instead of replying to that irritating message, breathe. Instead of diving into a pointless online debate, close the app. Instead of explaining your feelings again and again, observe them. Because those who learn to stay silent when needed speak with more power when the moment comes. Silence isn't emptiness, it's presence. And the more comfortable you become with it, the more control you'll have over yourself and over everything around you. Because those who govern their tongues govern their lives. Those who master themselves change their world. Peace isn't given by the world, it's built by how you respond to it. Others don't control your life, you do. And once you truly understand that and apply it in small daily choices, your reality starts to shift. It doesn't matter where you are right now. If you begin today, not tomorrow, today, to train your self-control, you'll start to notice the effects immediately. You'll sleep with a lighter mind, respond with greater clarity, and make decisions with more confidence. Because Stoicism isn't a theory, it's practice. It's real transformation.
It's the difference between living on autopilot and living with intention. And if you've made it this far, congratulations. You've already taken a step upward.
The next video that's now appearing on your screen will take you even deeper into this journey of Stoic wisdom. You'll discover how to take the next step and become 1% better. Thank you for staying with me until now. I'm Adriano, and I'll see you in the next video.